Welcome back to the Road to National series. In today's episode, I'm going to take you through a lower max workout and I'm going to be talking about max efforts, the mentality you need behind max efforts and how you select your max effort variations for your session. Now, this links massively to today's session because I had a bit of a crisis on my max effort. So this is me building up to a banded squat max. Now this that I've just moved 120 kilos was my previous PR. However, as you can see, it was ridiculously easy and I'd actually hit 140 kilos with the harder band. So I knew that I should be hitting about 150 kilos. So I picked this max because I thought that would be really achievable for the first week back. But I completely psyched myself out. I failed the lift here. There was a massive crash and I have failed squats like this before. With the bands in particular, I have to bail forwards. They're pulling down so hard that if I try and bail any other way, I feel like my arms get ripped out of place if I go backwards, and I was caving forwards anyway. So it massively shook me, to be honest. I've never been shaken by a lift like this. I was genuinely like frightened. So I decided to build back up and sort of reattempt the max, but it took me a long while. Like it was half an hour before I'd like plucked up the courage to do this. I sort of skipped through it really quickly, but I was on my phone for ages. That lift, that 120, even though that moved really easy there, again, I wasn't in the right headspace. Here I'm shaking all over the place at this unrack. I'm like, I've got to go, I've got to go, I've got to go. And I bottled it. I turned, yeah, I'm saying here that my mentality's so weak. And then I literally just said how I felt and I'm like, I'm afraid. I said to myself, I'm afraid. So I thought, what's the opposite of that? Not afraid. So I whacked on Not Afraid by Eminem. A bit of a cheesy move, but it got me massively hyped up. I was like, stop fearing this. Like, remember who you are, basically. And that you can easily do this. So it was a bit of a grind, I think, because I'd exhausted myself both emotionally, mentally, and physically through all the attempts. Now, I normally find massive hype moments like this really cringeworthy as well, but genuinely, I've never been more emotional about a lift because I was really terrified of this. I felt like it almost cut my head off with such high band tension the first time I failed. I felt like I had to do it. I couldn't just pick like a lower number because of what I'd achieved on the harder band tension. So that was a massive PR for me. And I'm going to talk more about the mentality around maxing out and how to deal with fear. But first, these are my accessories for the day. So I started off with RDLs. Now, I was a bit blown out from all of that palaver with the max effort, but I still decided to go heavy. I'd done some 180 kilo RDLs in my deload week a few weeks ago, if you watched that session, and I'd done it for easy sets of 8, so I decided to do 200 kilo sets of 5. These are crazy. My lower back is so fatigued today. At the time of recording this, it's the day after. Then I did heavy quad extension isometric, so I've been working through my knee injury, and after all that squatting and maxing out, I felt like the smart thing to do was isometrics on the quad extension because sometimes full range can aggravate my knee, and I felt that whilst warming up. Then I did elevated calf raises from my new calf raise block, which got a crazy stretch on my calves. Then I did banded hip abductions and then banded glute kickbacks. So it's the first time trying banded glute kickbacks. I sort of was just experimenting and you'll see them at the end of the video. But whilst those accessories are playing, I'm going to talk to you about the mentality behind max efforts and variation selection, like how you pick your maxes. So I'm going to cover fear because it's very relevant to today. I've never really been afraid of a lift, but it definitely can happen. People can be like, oh no, I've lost my confidence, and you just sort of psych yourself out. So the first thing that is going to make you afraid is if it feels really heavy on the unrack and if you're unstable, if you're shaking about, if the J-cups are set too high sometimes for your unrack and you feel like in a squat you're having to calf raise up to get the bar out, or on a bench you're having to like bring your shoulders forward, you're losing all of your positioning and tightness, that could be contributing to it massively, making you really shaky on the unrack. But also it could be that if you've not done heavier variations, heavier max efforts, you feel the weight of your max effort a lot. So one of the reasons I do banded max efforts is because the total tension at the top of the squat, for instance, I did today was 260 kilos, 150 kilos of bar weight and 110 kilos of band tension. And it really does feel like 260 kilos, particularly at that top position. Obviously the band decreases as you go down because it's less stretch, and then it increases on the way back up. But what I learned by doing banded max efforts, this is the same with bench as well, is as I go to unrack, it feels really heavy, but I learned that I can do a full rep after that heavy unrack. So it gives me loads of confidence when I go back to my regular squats and benches. I unrack it and go, oh my word, this is so light. And it gives you loads of confidence to attack the weight, and you feel like you can do a full range of motion lift with heavy weight. However, obviously today I picked a banded max and it felt really heavy whilst I was unracking. So that can also mentally throw you. Another thing to think of is injuries. That can make you worried. I was thinking of my knee, although it's been feeling good recently. I was like, oh, what if I bomb down and my knee just like blows out? And I never normally think of stuff like that. I try not to watch anything online of disasters like that happening, but it was really in my mind, particularly with the bands pulling so heavily down today. But if you manage injuries properly, one of the massive parts of rehabbing something is gaining the confidence to use it again properly. So if you're injured, that can affect your mentality when maxing out as well. And the other thing is holidays and time off. So if you've been away from squatting for a while, which I have been, I aggravated my back the last time I squatted like 2-3 weeks ago whilst I was on holiday. I haven't squatted in a while. I did loads of leg workouts, but they were all like accessories, things like a leg press whilst my back was hurting. So I hadn't actually squatted, and I think that contributed to the unstable unrack. I didn't have my usual setup, my normal tick box list, if you will, as I'm getting into position. So I felt all over the place, and setting a standard thing that you do, a standard way you set up, can be a great way of stabilizing your unracks and making you have a lot of confidence. The other thing is you can do smaller jumps. So I thought my jumps today were reasonable, but I could probably have thrown another jump before going to my max. I just felt that it burns my energy out when I do that. I normally do less jumps on my max effort days, but that can help you overcome fear. All of these factors are going to contribute to fear. And the main thing that you can do is if you're really confident that you have the strength. So today, based off the way the lighter weights were moving, I knew it was fast. I knew I was strong enough. I don't know why I had such a mental crisis, but if you like actually know that you definitely can do it, I suggest finding some way like I did, put on some motivational music and push through it, because the mental benefit you get from overcoming such fear, I feel like I'm never going to get that mentally psyched out by a lift ever again, because now I know how to overcome that feeling. I just never felt it before. However, in general, if it's just something where you're pushing yourself, even if your gym bros are saying, oh, it's all you, bro, you could definitely get it, you need to be smart about it. Like, I had numbers that I had hit on other max effort lists that strongly indicated that I could lift what I needed to today. But even then, maybe the strength wasn't there on the day.Maybe after my few weeks off in Dubai, it wasn't really there. So the smarter thing to do in that situation is to back off. But if you're confident, and I was underneath it all, like I knew that I should be able to hit that, overcoming that felt like amazing, and you saw my emotional reaction after I succeeded. So this also leads on to max effort selection. Now, I don't believe in programming maxes. My upper maxes are literally just completely random, any bench variation I like and that I think's beneficial. The lower maxes are programmed in terms of, on my first 3-week wave, I do squat, deadlift, squat, and on my second 3-week wave, I do deadlift, squat, deadlift, just to make sure that I'm alternating between them and making sure that I'm evenly training both, because I'm trying to work on both. But in general, you should just pick a max effort that ticks two boxes. The first one is something you want to do, something you're enthusiastic about. The lift I chose today, I really thought I could do. I thought it was a reasonable one coming back from training, especially since I'd hit the 140 kilos with the heavier band. I thought I'd walk through this and it would be a nice, easy max to come back to. Similar to my camber bar max yesterday, that was a very easy PR. I thought it was going to be easy breezy and a great way to ease back in, but it didn't turn out that way. And the second thing that you want your max effort to do is target your weakness. So like I said, bands help create such heavy weight at the top. If your weakness is confidence and unracks and having self-efficacy, maybe do some banded variation. It also works on a myriad of other things, but if you're weak at the bottom position, maybe do stuff like camber bar bench pressing, things like that. Just pick a max effort that targets your weakness, that you're enthusiastic about for the day, that you think you can beat. I keep all my max effort records in a log and the date, so I know how long ago it was, I know similar records, and I know whether I should beat something or not. And if you don't think you can beat a record, just pick a new variation, something new. There's infinite variations, honestly. So yeah, that is it for today's video. I hope you did in fact enjoy the video. If you did, drop it a like, drop it a comment, subscribe, click the bell, all of that good stuff, and have a great day.